Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Gary. How are you today?
Doing very well. Good to have you. Glad you could join us because I know, man, you've got a lot of thoughts and memories of Pat Summitt. Of course, as the head coach of the Alabama women's basketball program, you took Alabama to heights that the women's program has not seen before or since. But one thing you couldn't do, it seems like, was get past Pat Summitt in Tennessee. Of course, a lot of people had trouble beating her, and
exactly.
so, yeah. But what an iconic coach, a person. Just your initial thoughts on hearing of her passing this morning.
Well, number one, the thing that pops in my mind first and foremost is the world is a better place because of Pat Summitt. She was a great American. She was a great coach. She was a leader. I mean, a leader beyond what people can even imagine, and she was tough as nails, which brings me to the point that if Pat Summitt could not defeat that dreadful disease, it probably can't be defeated by any mortal man. My mother-in-law passed away from Alzheimer's. My dad had Alzheimer's, and last night watching the David Faraday show on the Golf Channel, Peter Costas, one of the iconic announcers for the Golf Channel and a tremendous golfer, he too has been diagnosed. And so it is a dreadful disease. It's a tough disease to live with. But then there was a commercial on your radio show just now. I think it was a jeweler maybe, but they said today is made to be lived to its fullest, and your love is to be shared. So what a joy. What a joy it was to be able to know her, to compete with her and against her. And so I know what, I can only speak for myself, but probably for many others, I was blessed to have been a part of her career.
Let's talk about the battles against her. Of course, Alabama beat Tennessee and beat Coach Summitt in 1984 when Ken Weeks was the head coach. You're one of your mentors.
I was an assistant.
Yeah, and you were an assistant.
That's my claim to fame.
Yeah, so you were on a team that beat Pat Summitt. Alabama didn't beat Tennessee basketball again until this past season. Of course, Coach Summitt no longer the coach. But you went through a run in the early 90s into the early 2000s. Again, I'll remind folks, if you don't remember how good Alabama basketball was, Coach Moody took over as the head coach in 1989. Beginning in 1991-92, Alabama won NCAA second round, NCAA Final Four, Sweet 16, Sweet 16, four straight after a Final Four appearance, then an NCAA second round. So you had some great basketball teams. Of course, at that time, Tennessee was at the height of its success under Pat Summitt. It seemed like they were winning the national championship every year, so you couldn't quite get over that Tennessee hump. What was it like to compete against her, as good as your teams were, still to have to face Tennessee every year in the SEC? What was that like with Pat Summitt leading Lady Vols?
Well, it was tough because the Alabama people expect you to win championships, and that's why I went to Alabama. And when I say championships, I'm talking about SEC championships and, of course, national championships. We had a chance several times to do both, and we never did really actually get over that hump. But your question regarding Pat Summitt was, she not only my career or our program, but many programs, you had an opportunity to beat her, you wanted to beat her, but it got down to the bottom line, and there was something about Tennessee that just seemed like when it would get to the bottom line, we just couldn't get over the hump. And I think a lot of it just had to do with Pat Summitt and the person that she was, and the career that she had, the program that she had. I mean, they were unbelievably talented, number one. But number two, they were also very, very well coached. Everybody says, well, she always had the opportunity to recruit the best players. And she did. She had great players. But I'm telling you, they were tough as nails. They played defense. They did what they had to do. They were well trained up. and I would like to think that we were as well, but sometimes it just wasn't in the cards, and so I have nothing but fond memories. I mean, we were in the SEC tournament championship game probably 4 times against Tennessee, and every single one of those games went right down to the wire, and somebody on Tennessee would do something crazy. And when I say something crazy, I'm talking about crazy good, because she had great players, but so did Alabama. And again, what a wonderful honor it was to compete with her, against her. I think she mentioned in her book, as a matter of fact, that the one team that she always knew was going to be prepared for Tennessee was the University of Alabama. And so, I take that with me to my grave. That was a heck of a compliment.
I said earlier, Coach Moody, that we go to a women's sporting event now, we're not even – it's just the norm to see big crowds, whether it's basketball, softball, gymnastics. Of course, Sarah Patterson had a lot to do with that too. But there was a time when you would go to a women's sporting event in the 70s in the NCAA, and there would be nobody there. No television coverage, local or nationally. I mean, it was just Title IX was being put in place, and there were sports, but they weren't for fans. Fans just did not follow women's sports. She certainly proved that women's sports could thrive, not just in terms of being competitive, but, 25,000 fans. She was one of the first, not only in terms of her success as a coach, but showing that women's sports was marketable and that people would watch.
And, Gary, the one thing that people don't realize, we would go to the SEC meetings in Destin, and that was always a topic of conversation. And it meant so much to Pat. She wanted everyone to be supported. She obviously did what she had to do to get the support for the Tennessee Lady Vols, but she was adamant about everybody promoting the game of women's basketball. And then along comes Gino Auriemma, and then you had Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali kind of deal. Boy, it was just beat each other to pieces, and that became an unbelievable. That level of competition was at a totally different level, but they also competed for fans. I'm telling you, and recruits. So, but she was for the game of women's basketball. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that's the only place that Pat Summitt ever coached was the University of Tennessee.
It was, yeah.
And one of my former coaches, who probably was one of the best recruiters in the country, was Cheryl Littlejohn. And, of course, she played for Pat Summitt at Tennessee. And the work ethic that Cheryl Littlejohn had, and has today in a different business, was because of Pat Summitt, the impact that she had on players, the impact she had on people. And she had an impact on the game because she made all of us work extremely hard to try to raise our programs to the level that hers was.
Well, she was phenomenal, and I shared this story earlier, too, that I had run into her probably 10, 12 years ago down at Blue Water Bay in Niceville on a golf trip that I was on. She had her coaches down there for a retreat, and I had never, I'd covered some games with you coaching against her, but I didn't know her personally, and she was so different off the court. I mean, I was amazed at how engaging she was, how down to earth, and just what you said, her interest in Alabama and the Alabama-Tennessee rivalry, and just a person that if you saw her on the court and didn't know her, she was intimidating. But when you were in a one-on-one environment with her, just talking with her, she was so personable, so engaging, so genuine.
And she was so good to me. She was so good to we would go to those SEC meetings, and she would loosen up, and it, as you would say, very, very engaging, delightful to be hanging around. And that's the thing. Like I said earlier, you would think that she was miserable when you look at her face, because when it come time to compete, oh my gosh, that's all I can say. She had that eye of the tiger, and she would compete. But off the court, what an engaging, delightful person to be with, and so again, I think that the key word here is just impact. She was a person, an individual who had an impact not only on her players, not only on the game, but on the world in general. She was just, she will be missed. And it's a sad, sad day for most of us that know her. And one thing that makes it so sad is just that disease. That disease is just pray that somewhere, somehow, somebody, some person much more intelligent than any of us maybe can find some type of cure or something that can prolong people's, at least prescribe some type of medication that, because it's a miserable, miserable disease. And so we all need to be in prayer about that, and I'm sure that she would say that if she were still alive.
Rick Moody, former Alabama women's basketball coach, our guest, now an analyst for the SEC Network, and has done some games with me. I don't know if he's happy about that or not, but maybe we'll get to do some more coming up, talking about his memories of Pat Summitt. While I've got you, Coach, let's talk a little Alabama basketball. You watched this team last year. They were certainly improved. They beat Tennessee for the first time since 1984 when you were an assistant to Ken Weeks. Made some progress. Christy Curry in Alabama women's basketball moving back into Coleman Coliseum from Foster Auditorium. Your thoughts on that? Do you think it's a good move for Alabama women's basketball to be back in Coleman?
I think it's absolutely a great move. I think it's a home run. I appreciate Coach Bill Battle and his support of the Alabama women's basketball program and, of course, his administration. I think it's a great move. And it's not necessarily going to give Alabama women's basketball a playing advantage. Foster Auditorium was a nice place to play. But, you know, if you're not getting the players, that is the key to being able to compete at the highest level, is all about recruiting. And I just don't believe, and every other coach that I talk to, and even the other players on other teams are so proud that Alabama's moving back into the Coliseum, because it's a commitment by the University of Alabama that now Christy Curry, when she goes on the road, when she's sitting in a gym, she at AAU games and so forth, that she can recruit. She already is a great recruiter. But I will tell you this, from what I know from other coaches, it was very, very difficult for her to recruit to Foster Auditorium. Another thing that many people do not discuss, so many of the people who are Alabama women's basketball fans are older people. The people don't realize, unless they tried to go to those games, the parking situation was absolutely unbelievably difficult. People who would come to a game and want to sit and enjoy a game were sitting on bleachers instead of sitting in chairbacks. Older people, that's difficult. So, I mean, there's a lot of different reasons why I'm happy for Christy for taking a stand, and I appreciate Coach Battle, as I said, for the commitment that he's making to Alabama women's basketball. And I pray that as long as Christy Curry can stay there, that they too will be playing for championships. That's her goal. They're a very, very well coached team. I've watched them in practice. They are so prepared. It's unbelievable. I think the return of Ashley Smith to next year's team is going to be a tremendous shot in the arm. They've got a point guard coming in from Blunt, Mobile, that can really, really, really play, much more athletic. So they continue to take strides forward, and I can't wait to see them play again this next season.
All right, I mentioned that run that you had. 8 straight NCAA tournaments, including an NCAA Final Four and then 4 consecutive Sweet 16s. When you went to the NCAA tournament in 1998-99, that was the last time that Alabama made it to the NCAA tournament. I mean, that's a long run. You mentioned what you think of this team coming up. You think they got a chance to be pretty good. Is this a potential NCAA tournament team, in your opinion, in 2016, 2017?
Well, I don't. I think one reason I think it is potentially an NCAA tournament team. I don't think that the league, top to bottom, is going to be quite as tough. I think there'll be more opportunity, more winnable games. Let me say it like that. Although, Gary, you and I both know. And by the way, I absolutely love calling games with you. I love calling games with Chris, so thank y'all for having me. But the bottom line is there are more winnable games on their schedule in the league this year, in my opinion, just because of the losses that some of those teams had. So it's possible, but I think to be realistic, I honestly believe that this move to Coleman Coliseum and one or two more recruiting classes is going to make them a year in and year out threat to be in the NCAA tournament. And that in itself is the bottom line. That's what Christy Curry, her staff, and the players should all be striving for, and I can't wait to see it happen.
It's late June. How's the golf game? You rounded into form?
Absolutely. I did have a good day Sunday afternoon. I didn't lose money, and so if I didn't lose money, it was a good day for me with some of these guys I play with. But actually, as we speak, I'm sitting out in a boat on Lake Gunnersville, and if you heard a helicopter going over us just now, that's what that was. And so Pat Summitt, I guess the final word would be that Pat Summitt would tell you to value and to enjoy and to cherish every single day that we have. And that would be the challenge for most of us. It's tough to do with some of the things that's happening in the world, in our country. But, you know, we've still got a wonderful life to live. And we need to cherish it and do the very best we can and try to help other people do the same thing.
Well said. Thank you, Coach Moody. Appreciate the time.
Thank you, Gary.